Games can sometimes give us too much of a good thing. Today we're talking about choice and decision and how some games can absolutely overwhelm the player. I would still say at the end of the day, this isn't really like a negative list. To be honest, it's a very good problem to have, but we got a lot of cool games to talk about and lots of choices. Here are 20 games that give us so many choices that we don't know where to start. But we will start with number 20, Baldur's Gate 3. This one is a no-brainer. The biggest RPG of last year doesn't really need an introduction here at gameranx. We've talked about this non-stop, and for pretty good reason. The developers at Larian put so much detail in their games, players are still discovering new ways to play it. And like, we're not even talking about character creation and picking your class or choosing from a billion different spells. No, deciding on the minute-to-minute details in your playthrough stops us dead in our tracks. Going back to Act 1, we can change everything by visiting the wrong location first. We can go to the Goblin's base and make deals, leading the evil army to the Bastion of Emerald Grove. If you talk to the right people, you can unlock a friendly guy that transforms into a bear, or an evil drow lady that really likes murder. It's all your call, and so many choices depend on random chance. Those dice rolls are going to be the bane of your existence. You gotta just learn to literally roll with it. Some of the choices that you make aren't even your own choices. It's just stuff you didn't even realize was a big decision or would change the game.
Let's find some prey.
And then there are all the characters we wanted to spend time with. We want to progress Shadowheart's story and Astarion's story, but we don't have room for both of them in the party sometimes. Like, yes, you can swap often, but not every party needs every class. So even the characters are a big choice. And we didn't even get up to The Dark Urge, a totally different playthrough that turns your main character into kind of a bad guy psychopath that just wants to murder everybody. Because the developers at Larian Studios might actually be crazy, there are weird contingencies at every step of the story in case your bloodthirsty maniac here actually killed a plot important NPC. And a lot of us, depending on how many hours you have to play the game, will never end up ever seeing these little hidden cutscenes. It's nuts. Next, over at number 19, The Outer Wilds. Choice isn't always a binary, and the incredible indie space sim Outer Wilds forces us to think in 3D. This is a game that seemingly gives no choices and all the choices in the world. We're dumped in a solar system with lots of planets and space stations and moons and other curiosities you're gonna want to check out with just your pinging radio to guide you. The choice comes from deciding which planets to visit first, how far we'll want to explore, and what to learn. There are literally no restrictions here, so if you're a super genius, technically, it is possible to beat the game with everything your space alien starts with from the beginning of the game. No unlockables or upgrades or power-ups required here. The tricky part is learning how this universe works. Oh, and I buried the lead here, but the solar system explodes in 22 minutes after you wake up next to the campfire. That adds another whole layer of choice. We need to choose a location and choose when to visit those locations. Some planets change dramatically depending on the time. One planet slowly implodes, the surface crumbling away as, time passes on. Another planet drains all of its sands onto another planet. And we're not even talking about the Echoes of the Eye expansion, which adds even more choices to how you explore space. There are so many mysteries, and we want to crack them all. There's never enough time, really. Next, over at number 18, we're gonna go weird here. Not every choice needs to be narrative. Some choices are a lot more basic than that. After loading up Tekken Tag Tournament 2, you're treated to a ginormous roster of wacky characters. So where do you even begin? You've definitely had this feeling when you fire up a new fighting game, especially one like this. Do you choose the funky robot guy, the Velociraptor, the bear, the other bear? There are a total of 59 characters when you stack up all the default fighters, console exclusive and DLC released post-launch. Whether you're a fan of Tekken or not, That's a lot of people to choose from. Even if some of these characters only kind of exist as a goof, nobody is going to play old guys like Dr. Boskanovich or Sebastian. They kind of only exist for a one-off joke about characters that nobody wants to play, but they're also still fully playable with dozens of moves and combos, and now that we're talking about them, we kind of want to play as them too.
This one goes out to the top selector. Snoop the OG.
Oh, and the tag tournament part of the title means something. We have to pick 2 characters to main. It is such a tough choice in games like this. The random select button exists for people like us. Now at number 17, we're circling back around to more traditional choices in games, and one of the poster children for choice overload is Fallout New Vegas, obviously. If any Bethesda-published RPG is going on a list, it has to be the Obsidian-developed New Vegas. Now, while Skyrim is a favorite for a reason, you can basically do everything you want as long as a bug doesn't prevent you from finishing a quest. In Skyrim, you can join almost every faction all at the same time and help them all. You really can't do that in Fallout New Vegas. Fighting one faction will make another group hate your guts, and at the start of the game, it seems like an easy choice.
You like that?
Fallout New Vegas pushes the post-apocalyptic story further, though, exploring a war between the new California Republic and Caesar's Legion. So the NCR is rebuilding the wasteland while the Legion is changing it. And then there's Mr. House in the center of the chaos. The still-alive founder of Robco Industries has his own schemes for the future of New Vegas, and you're forced to decide the fate of multiple great civilizations. Have fun, because choice is everywhere in New Vegas. You'll need to decide, like, obvious stuff, what cool gun to carry, what ammo to pick up, what quests to complete first, what areas of the map to explore, and what stats to boost on your character. All standard RPG stuff, but so much more is at stake in New Vegas. The writing and world building in this game are top notch, investing us deeper into the troubles of the ragtag group of weary survivors here. Ask anyone that's ever played Fallout New Vegas. We never only play this game once. We might not finish it, but after completing the story, you're right back in there, setting up another character, thinking about checking out all the stuff you missed the first time around. And that's a lot of choice. Next, over at number 16, choice can be both a good thing and a bad thing. In Binding of Isaac, choice is baffling. In this poop-strewn top-down roguelike, you play as a crying baby that blasts other, weirder crying babies in the world's least sanitary basement. I know I'm oversimplifying it, and I feel almost silly explaining what this is after 100 re-releases. You may not know it, you may. There's a lot of people that do. We've all played the game, we've stuck with it, and we're stuck struggling with choice. Unlike other modern roguelikes, the Binding of Isaac spits in your eye and tells you to figure it out yourself. Items don't have descriptions you can read before collecting them, and some items can completely change the rest of your playthrough. Some items are required as setup for future builds, and others just start as useless things and become better with the right combo. Sometimes you'll find something useful, then find another power-up later that totally invalidates what you had just grabbed. It's a cruel little game sometimes. We've got the wiki up whenever we play, obsessively checking what weird item we've just found does. Maybe, it makes you cry one giant super tier, but it's so big it can only hit things 1 pixel in front of you. That's a hypothetical, but that's also exactly the kind of weird choice thing that happens every second in the Binding of Isaac. Now at number 15, take Skyrim and add the time limit from Dead Rising, and then you get Dragon's Dogma 2, a game that's packed with choice and consequences. You might not even realize you're on a time limit because there are so many choices. We're so busy learning about vocations, we didn't notice some quests have a little mark besides them. If you don't move fast, you'll lose out on those quests permanently. Or if you only move the story ahead too far, you might never be able to learn who's murdering the patients in a slum clinic. Choice is really trickier when you really need to commit to your decisions. Dragon's Dogma 2 forces you to commit because traveling anywhere is a chore. Do you want to use one of your valuable fairy stones to teleport to a port crystal? Do you want to place one of your extremely rare port crystals in a far-off dungeon so you can return easily later? No, we're not going to risk it. You want to save your stuff. Better to pay for a cheap ride in an extremely destroyable cart.
What say we knock it flat? Look about, Master. We've got company.
And the choices only get worse or better later in the game. Near the end, you'll be able to unlock the Warfare vocation. With this job, we can equip any weapon type or armor we want, and equip literally any of the skills we've unlocked from any job. We can equip a bow, a set of daggers, and a magical staff to heal the party ourselves. Too bad you're limited to 3 skill slots instead of the normal 4. Basically, it feels like we're going to be spending the rest of our lives deciding on what 3 skills we can't live without. Now over at number 14, there are games with too many decisions, too many items, too many characters, too many planets to visit, but collections like Rare Replay have too many games. Stick with us on here. I know, like, technically no retro game collection really has too many games. The more games, the better. But where do we even start when you have something like Rare Replay? This collection comes with 30 games from 30 years of history from the developers that brought us so much, like GoldenEye 007, Perfect Dark, Banjo-Kazooie. Not all the games in the Rare Replay are stone cold classics. Not everybody is obsessed with Grab by the Ghoulies, I'll admit, but the lesser games are almost the ones that fascinate us the most. You know, those weird little things we all forgot about. Blast Corps is a weird gem of a game that you don't want to miss. And even the reviled games like Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts have a lot of charm now that we're past being angry that it wasn't another classic platformer collectathon. In the case of Rare Replay and other game collections like this, we're actually just happy to have too many choices over not enough, you know? Next at number 13, a single choice can be too much, especially when you don't even know you're making it. Undertale is that sort of game. It looks like an RPG Maker project at first glance, and it became an indie darling for good reason. Undertale twisted our expectations at like every turn and just made what seemingly was a simple JRPG into one of the strangest games of the last decade. Undertale drops your human character into an underground world of monsters. Normally in these situations, you equip the nearest big stick and start swinging at every monster you meet. JRPGs are about fighting creatures and leveling up, and all of that exists in Undertale, but you're never meant to do any of it. After killing your first monster, you'll feel so depressed you'll start looking for new solutions immediately. And there's always another way. So instead of beating up monsters, you're meant to talk to them. Every monster encounter is a puzzle, and we rush to try like every option. The bosses become even more complex with strings of special interactions you'll need to take as the game morphs itself into something totally different over time. If you don't kill monsters, you don't earn XP and you won't level up. Instead of getting better at fighting monsters, you need to get better at dodging attacks during like the space shooter style minigames that contort in wilder and wilder ways as you get deeper into the game. By the end, your choice to try to make friends twists into an epic conclusion that's worth all the uncertainty and challenge. In Undertale, the hardest choices aren't really choices at all. You can also become a murderous psychopath, kind of like in Baldur's Gate 3 if you do the Dark Urge playthrough. We'd never do that, but that's an option. Now at number 12, the choices in Detroit Become Human appeal to us for a very specific reason. Sometimes we like making all the wrong decisions. In this narrative adventure game, you play as multiple robotic characters at different stages of their journey. One becomes a freedom fighter, one is technically a cop trying to solve a case, and one is a powerless maid or babysitter trying to escape the city. This is a David Cage Quantic Dream game, so you're an observer, following the story and making choices at critical moments, kind of like a choose-your-own-adventure novel. And like those novels, we need to turn the page and see how everything can just go terribly awfully wrong. Right from the very start, I wanted to ruin things sometimes to get the most dramatic ending possible. I turned our lovable cop character, Connor, into a murderous robot, so we'd get a big brawl between characters towards the end. If that means killing fan favorite detective Clancy Brown, then so be it. It was kind of worth it for the goofs. But that's the beauty of choice, right? Next, over at number 11, we're going from one narrative game to another, and Pentiment here is kind of an anomaly. It's a historical epic about solving a murder at an abbey. Many decades will pass during the investigations, with twists we won't spoil here, but it is completely packed with choices. Who do you talk to each day? Who do you visit? What scenes do you want to see the most? Who do you pick as the culprit? You have a very limited amount of time per day to investigate, and you'll never see every quaint villager's house. We absolutely loved Pentiment, but we hated choosing one activity over another. Time marches on brutally, and we're still thinking about all the little choices we didn't make. Should we have visited the church to investigate the local priest more? Should we have accepted a dinner invitation to the rich man's house? Or try to solve a local crime problem by staying with a kindly group of farmers? Some sub-stories matter, others don't. Some paths are dead ends. Others can change so much. By the end of the game, you're forced to choose how to depict the history of the town, all influenced by your choices. And the weight of indecision becomes unbearable here. Games like this should choose for us sometimes. With games like this, the choices are difficult, but it is all of the fun. Next at number 10, picture this. The case has gone cold. You're searching random alleyways for clues you'll never find. You got dozens of notes, multiple possible murder weapons, and an angry mob of citizens chasing you down. That's Shadows of Doubt. Probably one of the most wild games on this list. Shadows of Doubt is a procedurally generated detective game. You got a crime scene to investigate, you got names on papers, and blood spots on the floor. There's no guide online to help us figure these cases out because no two cases are the same. Like I said, they're procedurally generated. You'll have an entire city to explore with its own laws. Because you're a private eye, you can't just walk into crime scenes, you'll have to sneak in. That adds another layer of confusion. You can crawl through vents or just demolish walls to get to where you need to know. Clues are more important than privacy here. Think of Shadows of Doubt kind of like a Minecraft where you don't build anything and instead solve Steve's murder. That's almost like the level of freedom and choice you're given at the start. Look, we might never actually solve a case, but causing chaos is fun. That's a totally valid choice too here. Next at number 9, when we were kids, we dreamed of growing up to become deranged kleptomaniacs that murdered our friends by starting house fires. Those are the life choices we've all made in The Sims. Most recently, The Sims 4. But it's an entire series of games where we all thrive on interpersonal relationships with fictional people that babble gibberish.
Pomereguas, Confuibo, Grenea, Tribal Dormf, Awavine?
So. Aflin Wadida. Apodola.
Oh.
Do we need to explain The Sims at this point? It's sandbox games that dump too many choices on us from minute one, because it's kind of like life. What plot of land do you want? How big is your family? Who do you want to be? Do you want to build your own house? What career do you want? Do you even want a career? How many people do you want to turn into blabbering maniacs by filling houses with the worst of everything? If you want to build your own house, then the choices get even more complicated. And seriously, if you're playing the game like a normal person, even wholesome choices like who you want to marry, whether to have kids or not, or whether you want to start a new career can be agonizing. We spent hours making our perfect little sim person, and we're not going to let anything go wrong for them, unless we really want everything to go wrong. In that case, I'll throw you in the pool and delete the ladder, old school style. That is freedom of choice, if you ask me.
Ja, Ash. No, no, je hebt hem uit. Wat is er? No. Woohoo!
Next, over at number 8, Call of Duty and Activision have lost their minds. So in them dominating the first-person shooter world, they've decided Call of Duty should be the only game on your console or PC. They've done that by bloating the file size beyond reason. Modern Warfare 3 from 2023 is over 200 gigs for the game. Of course, you can download and install different modes depending on your needs, but the campaign, Warzone, and multiplayer modes are separate downloads, and you don't need all of them on your system at all times, but that's still a painful amount of space. Even worse if you're stuck on console with much more limited storage. On the PS5 and Xbox Series X, if you're not careful, Modern Warfare 3 can eat up your entire SSD. That's the choice we're talking about here. How much of Modern Warfare 3 do you want? Opening the launcher, you also get the option to download previous Call of Duty games, which also are massive space hogs. It isn't enough to play Call of Duty anymore. Now we need to calculate exactly how much of a single game can fit on our hard drive, whether we're feeling like a quick match of multiplayer. If you've uninstalled, it's going to take a long time to download again. These are the choices that might keep some people up at night.
Reloading!
Now at number 7, if Tekken Tag 2 gave us too many choices, then Super Smash Bros. Gave us the ultimate choice. Look, there are way too many characters in this game. It's a blessing and a curse. If you're like us and you had to get all the DLC stuff because you have a compulsion, then you'll have one of the weirdest collections of cross-franchise characters all in one special place. Do you want to choose Simon Belmont and whip Steve from Minecraft? You can do that. Maybe choose Sephiroth so he can get his ass kicked by Bayonetta. Solid Snake can plant mines to slow down Donkey Kong. There's just too many options, too many characters, too many stages, too many little rewards and references to other games and music tracks, and steam is shooting out of our ears just thinking about this one. Just look at this roster. Look at it. It is too much. It is so hard to pick a character. Again, this is another game where I talk about, like, it's really a good thing. It's really a first world problem to have all this choice here, but I mean, just looking at all these portraits on screen can give you a little anxiety. Now at number 6, let's all take a deep breath and ignore the impossible weight of indecision and sit down at our farm for a little bit of Minecraft. The original survival game sim that just keeps giving us more. There's something comforting about Minecraft, you know? It's simple, it's complex at the same time, it's a mess of systems that don't always all fit together, designed over years and years of development and refinement, all part of a procedurally generated, weird, fascinating world with its own biomes and little ecosystems. Minecraft might be the perfect sandbox game. Appropriate for kids, but just difficult enough to keep us all engaged, and it gets more and more complex the further you play. And choice is everywhere. Do you dig down directly and find an awesome cave filled with diamonds or something? Do we search for a convenient village where you can get some items that might not be so easy to find later? Do you want to find that specific biome that you love so much, like the Sahara biome, but there's no such thing as a perfect starting location, so finding a plot of land with lava, water, villages, temples, and plenty of trees is never easy. So really, another big choice in Minecraft, probably the biggest one, is to cheat or not to cheat. Next, over at number 5, the Hitman series has always given us plenty of ways to take out our targets, but the modern set of Hitman 1 and 2 and 3 really raised the bar. The massive levels in this trilogy really lend themselves to discovering really creative solutions, and the developers knew exactly how lost we would be. So to help guide players like us, Hitman has critical mission stories you can follow, complete with checkpoints and step-by-step instructions to help you kind of muddle through some of the biggest, most immersive sandbox situations we've seen. Each level of Hitman is like an intricate machine, a puzzle. It's your job to either decrypt it or smash through it with a sledgehammer. You can be subtle. One of our favorite activities in any Hitman game is figuring out the simplest, quickest way to take out a target without getting caught. Earning Silent Assassin means you've killed your target without being detected, often by making the murder look like an accident. There's something so fun about watching Agent 47 slowly walk out of a crime scene while the chaos swirls around him, just calmly leaving to exit and get that high-ranking reward. It is perfect. The game gives you even more decision, more choice paralysis with all the different ways you can play. Case in point, Freelancer. Check out Hitman Freelancer. It's like one of the best roguelike modes ever.
Knockout.
Anyway, it's great, and you know what? I just bumped into your old...
But anyway, next at number 4, one of the best tactical RPGs ever made is also a game entirely about the choices you make. Tactics Ogre Reborn has a story that branches like a tree, and the latest version includes a timeline that shows you how your story splinters down to the earliest decisions. Like, there's way more to Tactics Ogre than I think people realize. It's way more than just like picking your party and equipping them with gear. It can be tough to decide whether to bring an archer or another knight, but it's really the story choices that will keep you awake at night. Will you participate in a massacre ordered by your own nation? That's the first major choice. And after playing Tactics Ogre for hundreds of hours, we know that there is really no right answer. Hilariously, the entire world will alter itself, so whatever choice you make, it is absolutely the wrong one. You'll follow a totally different story path, and you can branch again and again, getting new paths by choosing chaos or law, then switching again, but you'll get dunked on royally for all of your choices. This game is positively savage with the insults. If you've played Tactics Ogre and struggled with the many tough decisions in the story, don't worry too much because there are no right answers here. Really, only wrong ones. Now at number 3, we've talked about Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous very recently for exactly the same reason we're going to talk about it again here. This game gives you way too many damn choices, way too early. Opening the character customization menu is enough to make you go cross-eyed. Look at all these options. Dozens of job classes with subclasses, skills, stats, backgrounds, species to choose from, portraits to import, alignments to choose. Some of these options completely change the entire game, and we're talking about a game that can take minimum 100 hours to beat. That's the kind of game most of us will only play once, making the weight of your early choices even stronger. You better choose right this time because you're never getting another chance at this. It's too many games, not enough time.
Let's shake a leg.
Now, next over at number 2, like we said, JRPGs often are pretty straightforward. You'll travel the world, you'll gather party members at certain points in the story, you'll level up, you'll grind. You can't just do whatever you want because the story and the characters are crucial to the whole thing. That's true of plenty of JRPGs, but it isn't true of Chrono Cross, one of the weirdest and most divisive sequels ever. we're not here to tell you whether it's a great game or not. We just have to talk about all these freaking characters. There are 45 playable characters in Chrono Cross. They're like little alien guys, goblins, walking voodoo dolls, skeleton clowns to unlock. You have 3 slots, so choose which weirdo characters to include wisely. Unfortunately, the characters don't really add too much to the story here, but each character does speak with a distinctive accent or personality, which must have been a nightmare for the localization team. No matter what situation you're in, every character has a tiny bit of personality that comes through in their speech patterns. An impressive detail that really helps complement these weird characters and makes them feel like they belong, even if it doesn't really matter who much you choose. And as if we were ever going to choose anyone except Glenn, you know, Frog from the original Chrono Trigger in his human form. We're Team Glenn 100%. Now at number 1, Mass Effect. It's BioWare's biggest experiment when it comes to choice. This is a game series that promised complete carryover between games, a seamless transition that imports your Commander Shepard's save into each sequel, continuing the story in a way other games don't even try. At the start of Mass Effect 2 and later 3, you're given the choice to load in your previous save, taking a handful of your most important decisions and carrying them over. 3 games are really all one big story, and in many ways, Mass Effect actually succeeds at this goal. Depending on who dies on the planet Vermeer in Mass Effect 1, you'll have a very different companion in Mass Effect 3. Later choices, like whether you spare or kill a giant alien bug queen, will greatly change how one scenario plays out in Mass Effect 3.
The Rachni were a threat to the galaxy. Those tanks are filled with acid. If she gets out of hand, they dissolve her.
She's the last of her race, Shepard. We don't have the objectivity to judge her.
Your companions hear the truth. You have the power to free us, or return our people to the silence of memory.
I won't destroy your entire race. You'll go free.
You will give us the chance to compose anew? We will remember. We will sing of your forgiveness to our children.
There are dozens of examples just like this between the games, and while I'd hardly call the transitions seamless between each Mass Effect, we really appreciate the attempt. Even if we'll never see every result, you know, playing Pathfinder for dozens of hours is tough, but we'll need to play through multiple full games to see all the consequences of your actions in Mass Effect. It's just really, really cool how well it's done, how it's implemented, and you don't really see a lot of games like this today. But those are 20 games that gave us way too many choices in one way or another, lots of different reasons. Let us know which games give you anxiety trying to decide what to do next or what to pick or whatever. There's so many games we couldn't include on this list, but you definitely got more, so let us know. If you like this video, clicking the like button helps us out. We would really appreciate that. And if you're new, consider subscribing, maybe hitting that notification bell, because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.